I had developed my own intuitive energy healing style, but I've also become a certified clinical and transpersonal hypnotherapist. So that's what I'm doing now as a profession. I'm a hypnotherapist, which is very spiritually aligned, and it's such a satisfying career. Planet Earth is tough, and we are the ones that are here to set up the ascension, to set up the new energy on the earth, and to be here for when so many millions of souls are going to be awakening. You see it all around.
Hello, my dear friends. I'm Donald Lee, and this is Expressing and Revealing Your Truth with Donald Lee. It's a podcast in which I help you understand the truth about who you really are and how you can express and reveal that truth in the world. To do that, I interview people who have had transformational spiritual experiences, the type of experiences that many of us wish we had, but never do. Yet, by learning from my guests' experiences and the wisdom they've gained from those experiences, all of us can glimpse a bigger vision of who we really are and how we can live our lives more fully, more peacefully, more lovingly. Be sure to download my free mini ebook containing 5 of the 50 parables from my popular book, The Band Director's Lessons About Life. These little parables are short, easy to read, inspiring, and also help you to understand more about who you really are. There is a link in the show notes to get your free ebook. In this episode, I interview Anne-Marie Morales. Anne-Marie has a fascinating story of spiritual unfoldment. She grew up in a very Catholic family, had a great soprano voice, and became very active in church, particularly in church singing. She noticed she had some spiritual gifts even as a child. But while playing around with the Ouija board at age 14, she attracted to herself a dark entity that interfered with her life for many decades. As a young adult, she seemed to move into a perfect life. A loving husband, 2 wonderful children, teaching art in school, and always singing in church. But like the story of Job in the Bible, her life gradually came apart. I'll let Anne-Marie tell the story. But unlike Job, Anne-Marie gave up on God. It was the classic hopeless thought. If this is how you treat your friends, God, you must not really exist. Yet, when all seemed lost, other doors seemed to open. Anne-Marie began to expand her spiritual consciousness beyond Catholic doctrine to a broader and deeper understanding of spiritual reality. Several different people helped her along this path to greater understanding, as is always the case. Now she is a channel and a licensed hypnotherapist. I think you will really enjoy this delightful conversation with Anne-Marie Morales. Hello, my dear friends, and welcome once again. We're here today with Anne-Marie Morales. Now, I was connected by a mutual friend who said, you should talk to my friend Anne-Marie. And so I did talk to Anne-Marie, and here we are. So, Anne-Marie, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. Welcome. How are you doing? How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you. And thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Oh, great. It's a joy to have you, and it's a pleasure to meet you. Now, you have a very interesting story, and many people kind of have come through the Catholic Church. Many of the people that I interview aren't still active or attending the Catholic Church, but many of us, I've also spent the better part of my life as a Catholic as well, although I'm not attending church very often, once in a while, not the Catholic Church anyway. But there is, as we mentioned earlier, there is a grace in that, even if it doesn't answer all of our questions. And it's maybe a stage, you might say, but we can come back to this idea a little bit later. But we do go through stages in our life that for our spiritual growth. And there's much spiritual growth possible within the Catholic Church, within other churches. But sometimes we come to a point in our life where we then need to broaden our perspective, broaden our study and our learning and our understanding,
Mm.
because the spiritual journey that we're on is an eternal one, because we're eternal souls, aren't we? Anyway, so enough of me babbling on. Anne Marie, tell us your story. That's quite interesting. So take it away, Anne Marie.
Thank you very much. I agree with you on the concept of spirituality and actually the mystical nature of the Catholic Church and the
Yes.
Catholic religions.
Yeah, I was particularly interested in
Mhm.
the great tradition of Christian mystics. And that's not the common experience that people have within the Catholic Church. Most people
Correct.
don't delve into it to the point of learning about the Christian mystics, the great like Saint Teresa of Avila, and there's just you know uh, hundreds, a great
Exactly.
mystical tradition within the Catholic Church that still intrigues me and delights me. Anyway, so carry on.
Yeah. Um, so just to kind of start at the very beginning, which is a very good place to
Good.
start. I was raised as a very good Catholic girl by an older generation of parents. My parents had me in their 40s, which was very odd. Both my parents went through World War II, and we're from the island of Malta, so both of my parents are full Maltese. And you're not a Catholic unless you're a Maltese Catholic. Like it's not just a religion; it's a lifestyle. So in
Yeah.
my home, I
And
grew
Malta,
up.
listeners won't know this, but Malta was exceedingly important during the Second World War and was, of course, a British possession before the war and during the war, attained its independence after the war. But it was one of the keys to the whole North Africa campaign in the war. And the Germans repeatedly bombed it, tried to bomb it out of existence, and were always unsuccessful in doing that. It's maybe it's
Mhm.
a little bit like the Americans right now are trying to bomb Iran out of existence, and it has never worked. Air power alone has never conquered a nation. So that's interesting. But yeah, that would have been a difficult time during the Second World War living on Malta as well.
Absolutely. And it's a very fiercely patriotic community. Like, Malta wants everybody to know about Malta because nobody knows about Malta. So we're very patriotic in that sense, nationalistic, if you will. But, religion was a way of life. Both my parents were very religious people. My father wanted to be a priest. My mother, same thing. So I grew up, going to church not once a week, but Saturday night, going to pizza after Saturday night mass, and then going again on Sunday morning. Daily rosaries were normal. Rosaries in the car were normal. Even when my kids were young, I'm going to share this because it's a great story. My oldest son was maybe about 3, and he was in the back seat, and my mom and I were driving back from across town, and any trip in the car was an opportunity to say a rosary. So we're saying the rosary, Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee, blessed art thou. And so we get into this kind of like routine. And then my son in the back seat, ever the joker, born a joker, he's like, what are you saying? 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 So it's a great little story. But just to give you an idea of like how Catholic I was, and not only that, I'm a trained soprano, so I've been singing my entire life for the Catholic Church. I'd been singing at the age of 4. 4.5, 5, they figured out I could carry a tune, and man, they put me up on the altar, and that was my life. And even while I was actively doing other things, I sang for the Catholic Church. Uh, while I lived here in Florida in Gainesville with a young family, I did 3 liturgies a weekend, and then we moved to New York City, and I eventually ended up singing at St. Patrick's Cathedral, as a cantor, as a principal cantor. I sang to politicians and to celebrities, and it was me in front of thousands of people, uh, at at that facility. So, I mean, it wasn't just like, "Hey, I go to church every Sunday." No, this is my life. And it was not only just my life, it was something that brought me great satisfaction and spiritual satisfaction to share God through your voice. I mean, it's a life. So, needless to say, my religion was very important to me. And so I had gotten married rather young, and I had 2 young children, and my ex-husband, he's not my husband anymore, was not a very religious person, and it was hard for him to adapt. And, even now, if you're not in alignment with whatever spirituality you have, your relationship is going to suffer for that. And so, so many things had happened in my life, and I was noticing that systems were breaking down. Like, I had the thought in my mind that, gosh, I do all these things for God. God's going to take care of me, right? Meanwhile,
Like
um,
like it's a deal, right?
yeah,
Like it's an
totally. It's
exchange.
a deal. Look, I'm doing for you. You got to do for me. Isn't that the way we think, right? Isn't that the way life is? So, things were really falling apart. I was in my early 40s, and boy, everything was falling apart. My dad died. I had lost a child. My marriage finally fell apart. Then I lost my job. Then I lost my life savings to a scam. Like, all these things were happening. And then, almost like the nail in the coffin, the last nail in the coffin was my still husband, by the way, because I was separated for a long time because I lost my job. I got laid off of my job, which was a really good job, and which I thought I
As
had
as a as a
security.
as a teacher, right? I don't think you
Yeah, I
mentioned
was an elementary art teacher. I had gotten a master's degree. I went back to school in my 40s, and I got a really good job with a public school in New York State, which is well, they pay very well. So I was really happy career-wise. Um, but the home life was a disaster. So my ex-husband, at the time still my husband, we were in the stages. I had just gotten rehired after being laid off for many years, and found out that he was pregnant with his girlfriend. And to me,
it.
that was like, oh, excuse my language, but it all. Like, there's no God. There's clearly no God, because after all the rosaries I made, after all the things that I had done in my life, to happen to me, oh, hell no. Like, and by this
Y
time,
your
I will be honest.
your
Yeah, go ahead.
story, Anne Marie, is kinda like the story of Job, right? Well,
Seriously,
let's
yeah.
okay, let's take away this thing. Let's take away that thing. Oh, we'll
No,
take away his wealth. We'll take away we'll take
it was
away this.
awful.
We will challenge him and and you're sitting down here, like, God, but like, hey, I'm your friend. Is this
Yeah,
how you
I've
treat
been
your
your
friends?
faithful servant. Like, what is the deal? So, and during this time, like, when my ex left, so I kind of mentioned in the story, I got laid off. And when I got laid off, I actually started. We separated before I got laid off, so we were already. I was on the road to divorce, but then when I got laid off, I had no money. So it's like, and he was very kind about it. He's not a bad man at all. He was a good man. We just didn't agree, and he's like, "No, don't worry. We can still stay married. I'll put you on my insurance, and it'll be fine." But, we were already together for over 20 years. We had 2 kids, we had the mortgage, we had the picket fence, we had the 2 cars, the kids, the dogs, like, technically, we should have been perfect. Technically, from the outside, we were perfect, but we were not. Anyway, I needed to figure out who I was. And as I was mentioning to you, along with all this great worship that I was doing, I was also experiencing a lot of really negative supernatural experiences. Um, and they actually started when I was 14 and I was living in Malta. And I think I get my spiritual gifts from my dad's side of the family because he had a second cousin who was 18, I was 14, and she was a full-blown medium, like a full clairvoyant. And she was into the esoteric and kind of dabbling into, she had a book on Satanism or on the occult, and which is really taboo, but it's funny. And so she invited me to participate in a seance with her at the age of 14. And I was like, okay, cool. Like my dad would always he always talked about the darkness. I think he was more, spiritual, or maybe he had the psychic gifts that I got my gifts from him because
Right.
he was always talking about the devil and he was always talking about demons. And we're Catholics. Catholics are okay with that, you know? We talk about exorcisms and that's part of our religion, and Saint Michael, and defend us in battle and all this kind of stuff. So these things were all going concurrently, but over the course of my adult life from the age of 14, much through the end of my marriage, I was experiencing a lot of what you would call like a demonic oppression almost. So I would be
Really?
interfered with. I would have dark visions. My kids would have occurrences. Like my older son, when he was an infant, was having night terrors, and we had to have the house blessed by our priest. And it's always been an intrigue. I was in grade school when the Amityville Horror came out. I don't know if you remember that.
The film? Yeah.
And the
I
book,
never went.
the book first and
The
then the
book. Oh, the
film.
book. Yeah. Because like it's based on a true story, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
In Amityville, New York, right? It's in New York State, isn't
Exactly.
it?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep. So, I can't even tell you how many things I've experienced that are tied in with that story. So it's been like a vein throughout my life. Instead of vein throughout my body. So anyway, so during this whole time, I needed to figure out why was I experiencing, and I thought I was cursed. When you're in that mindset, the Catholic mindset, you must be cursed because bad things are happening to you. Because if you were really a good girl, none of this would have happened. So of course, your mind goes to, what's wrong with me? It must be my fault. So I sought to meet with like-minded people so I could talk about my experiences, how things would disappear, how my dogs would bark at nothing, how, I would feel watched, how I would have night paralysis. So lots of things happened to me over the course of the years, and to my children as well. So, when I finally wasn't somebody's wife, I started to meet with these ghost groups and became a part of a ghost group. But at the same time that these were all happening, I was opening up spiritually. So I met a woman who opened a metaphysical shop, and she offered a Reiki class. Now, I'd never heard of Reiki before until I got a pet psychic reading for this cute little kitten that I had rescued off the side of out of a dumpster. And she was the cutest little kitten, and I was doing this ghost stuff. And um, anyway, this kitten told the pet psychic that I was a healer. And this was before I was just doing ghost stuff. I didn't know about, or maybe it was even before I did the ghost stuff, but
So the cat knew that, like the soul or the
yeah.
spirit of the cat knew that. Is it interesting? Like our pets, and
Hmm.
particularly cats, come up oftentimes, right?
Highly spiritual, metaphysical beings.
Yeah. as
They're
being
in
able to
all
perceive things
dimensions.
on a spiritual or psychic level.
Absolutely. So this cat told the lady that I was a healer, and I was like, "I'm a healer." She said, "Yeah, do you do Reiki?" I said, "What's a Reiki?" Like, I'd never heard of Reiki before. I was a Catholic. I went to church every week and sang in the choir and, you know, so I didn't know what Eastern esoteric stuff, nothing. And within a week of that reading, this woman that I was an acquaintance of opened up this shop and offered a Reiki 1. And even then, I knew that I needed to take that class. I needed to explore that because I was beginning to open up. I was beginning to hear things, doing these ghost groups and all that. Eventually, I had to leave the ghost groups because, I mean, I knew that I kind of was in the angelic lineage. Like I knew that I was more in that realm than I was, oh, I want to hear about ghosts. I had gone to a Paracon, paranormal convention in New Jersey. This was like in the 90s. So like all the A&E ghost programs that were out there, Paranormal State and all these other ghost troops, they were all present there. And I had my very first reading done. I'd never had a reading done, but she was doing angel card readings. And I'm like, oh, tarot. No, no, I can't do tarot, but I'll do angel cards. Like there's
Okay.
any difference, right? So this lady said to me, she's like, Anne Marie, you have Archangel Michael with you. Do you even, you don't even know who you are yet. And I just went, oh, and the lady that was sitting with me, she went, huh? Like, oh my gosh, Anne Marie thinks she's special. Anyway, um, from then on, I started to open to more of the spirituality part of it. And actually, when I was at my lowest, was when I was introduced to this channeler named Tina Spalding. And she introduced me to A Course in Miracles, which is what my spirit.
Sorry to interrupt. Tina Spalding, I think she's originally from the United Kingdom,
Yes,
living now in British Columbia, right?
yeah, she lives in Vancouver.
Yeah.
Or
Well,
Salt Spring
she
Island.
lives
Yeah,
on Vancouver Island, I think.
Salt Spring.
And also Salt Spring Island. Okay, yeah, that's like lots of woo woo people go to Salt Spring Island.
Yeah, Eckhart Tolle
um,
lives there too.
Actually, I have one of her books here. I'm in the middle of reading it, along with a dozen other books that I'm in the middle of reading.
Sure. I ran into her work actually through a Google search. She said, Catholics are mystical. We're mystical. We have the apparitions of Mary and we have the miracles of the host and the blood. And so I typed into my computer, um, apparitions of Jesus and Mary, and channeling Jesus came up. And I had already
Okay.
started to listen to Bashar. So I was listening to channeled and then Tina's work. And when Tina was channeling Jesus, everything she was saying was like full on body. Yes. Like this is the truth. This is who God really is. This is who humans really are. And I started to follow her work. She's now a friend of mine. I consider her a dear friend. And it was through her work, through A Course in Miracles, that I began to raise my frequency enough to begin to channel myself. So eventually, me going into basements and hearing things growl through little mechanical devices, they wouldn't even show up if I were in the room. If I left the room, they would show up. So I stopped doing the ghost hunting and I started to get like pops in my ears. When we would ask questions, when it was a yes, I would get a pop in my ear. So I started to like develop this kind of like auditory response to frequency and energy. And eventually I started to channel um, what we call light language. So all of a sudden I started to like jibber jabber and sputter mutter and just start this gibberish would just flow from me like nothing. It was the most fascinating. It was like a novelty. I'm like, "Hey guys, look what I can do." Ticka, 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 ticka. It was like the weirdest thing. So yeah, that was like the first part of me channeling. And this was now a couple of years in, like 2 or 3 years into what I would call now the real spiritual awakening. So first, my whole entire existence failed. And then um I realized that I loved Jesus. I needed Jesus back with me and God. I loved it. Like, I can't deny that what I was doing was satisfying my soul, but then the structure within which I was functioning was operating really failed me. It
Yeah.
really, like, so the religion really failed me. Like, I did everything that they asked me to do. I said my rosaries. I went to confession. I denied myself. And then I it nothing was changing. So but I was never alone. I was never abandoned, and I was brought back to where my soul truly needed to be, which was to be with Jesus and with God, but really the true God, the true Jesus, not through a religion,
Yeah.
but through a personal, direct, unique connection, and a
Yeah.
study course that was not dogmatic, that didn't say you have to do this. In the beginning of A Course in Miracles, it says this is a course, and it is not optional or something
Yeah.
similar to
Yeah.
that. You need to know this stuff. Sure.
I've been a student of the Course in Miracles for quite a few years, but this is a Course in Miracles. The course is compulsory. Only the time that you take it is optional. It seems that in our spiritual awakening, this has to happen. Like in the story of Job, right? Everything that we're attached to, that we think is what's important, all
Mm-hmm.
of that has to be stripped away.
That's
And so
right.
we feel like that everything that we have is being taken from us. All the material things, the liturgy, the set
Yeah.
prayers like the rosary,
Right.
right? All of these things that we thought were so important. But you know what? Jesus didn't come up with any of those things,
No, no,
right? Right?
not at
So
all.
all of the stuff that doesn't matter, that we're so
Right.
attached to, has to be taken away, and so we're left kind of
Mm-hmm.
almost like naked, and almost like Jesus said, you have to be born again.
Correct.
You have to start over.
Mm-hmm.
And so much of what you've been taught and what you've been become attached to in your life, it's not important. It doesn't matter. And
No.
then we start to think, okay, what matters? It's our relationship with God, with the divine, with Jesus. So can we focus in on that? And it's
Sure.
a personal experience.
It truly
Right.
is. And, I have to say, I still attend Catholic Mass because I'm taking care of my 100-year-old mother. And that
Good for
is
you.
when I take her out and I take her to Catholic Mass. And I've started to sing again at this parish. And, luckily, I've had my experiences in the Catholic faith. Mostly positive. So I'm not one of those people that says, "Oh, I'm a recovering Catholic." I'm like, "Oh, that's only because you had a bad experience. Not everybody has bad experiences." I just understood that the dogma and the guilt and the "you must" just doesn't apply to me. I know that now. And so I can go into a Catholic service. I don't say the prayers that I don't want to say. I catch myself when I say something that is so rote, such a part of my cellular structure at this point. But I know that if I speak it just doesn't resonate. So what I do is I'm present. I'm present there. And would you believe every Sunday I'm hearing the light language coming through? And I feel, and if I need to, if there's some dense energy, I feel it, I clear it. I've actually cleared a Catholic church of demonic oppression of the souls that were buried in the cemetery. So I mean, like, I have a function. My, right? We all have functions, and this is one of my functions is to clear spaces and clear energy. So I still do that, and I still get downloads while I am in a Catholic mass, and it's beautiful.
Because like
Yeah.
all religious services are an encounter with the divine.
Yeah.
And God is present there. The
Hmm.
Spirit of God is present there. Jesus, he even said, "Where two or more are gathered in my name, there I am."
Exactly.
Right? So Jesus is there. But there's a lot
Hmm.
of other things going on as well.
Hmm.
They are
Yeah. I mean,
religious
I
services are
understand.
encounters with the divine.
Absolutely. I understand. And in my early days of channeling, and I do communicate with Jesus. Jesus does come into my life, and he is a guide for me, a personal guide. Um, I remember asking Jesus, look at all these people going up to eat your flesh, drink your blood, and you're dead right in front of them. And a voice clearly said to me, Anne Marie, do not judge them because you were once just like them. Do not judge them. Allow them to live their lives. They're going to have whatever they need for their own soul's purpose. And right now, that's what they need. So it was kind of like, you know, don't go into judgment, which is, of course, one of a core principle of a Course in Miracles, is to
And
remain
exactly what Jesus
non-judgmental.
said. Don't
Mm-hmm.
judge, right? Don't judge.
Lest you be
Yeah.
judged, right? Sure.
Yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. And it is a stage of spiritual development, and spiritual development is an eternal process. So we are all in some stage of spiritual development. And it's like, I've been a musician and a band director. Kids who are in the first year band, well, they're learning to play their musical instrument for the first time and struggling to get a note at the
Mm-hmm.
beginning and to learn a couple notes. And, somebody who's maybe in the high school band, they've been playing for several years, where they're at a different stage, a different
Yeah,
level, but
exactly.
they're still making mistakes all the time. They have aspects of learning to be a musician that they're
Mm-hmm.
struggling with. It's not that the high school musician is like, they're more skilled on their instrument. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
they have more knowledge about music, but they're not better in any fundamental sense
Right.
than the first year player. And for the most
Yeah.
part, the older students know that, and they know that they came from that they too were in first year band at one time.
Mm-hmm.
They know
Mm-hmm.
what it was like, and they're not judgmental and overly critical of the first year players for the most part, right? But as
Sure.
as humans, we often think, once we take another step on the spiritual journey, and we think that I got to go back, I got to tell all those guys they got it wrong.
I see it.
No, they will move along. I
Mhm.
mean, if you have something, some wisdom to share with them, and all of us do, that's what this podcast is about too, right?
Mhm.
Sharing spiritual wisdom.
Right.
It will resonate with some people and it will not resonate with others. So,
Mhm.
if if the lesson is what you need, then take it. If the lesson is not what you need, then move on to look for the lesson that you need. Just a little break from the program to mention a couple of things. Firstly, if you're enjoying this podcast, please like and subscribe. It really helps the algorithm to find more people who would enjoy these interviews. Also, if you're interested in spiritual growth, you might be interested in my series of spiritual books. As a spiritual author and a former band director, I use my little "the band director" trademark in these books because I use music as a metaphor for life and the journey of becoming a musician as a metaphor for our spiritual journey. There are 3 books in the series. The Band Director's Lessons About Life is a book of modern-day parables inspired by events from my teaching career. When you're working with kids, little things naturally come up that we sometimes call teachable moments. Little events when you realize there's a bigger lesson happening right now than the alternate F-sharp fingering on the clarinet that I was trying to teach. I started writing some of these little stories down and turning them into modern-day parables. So, the Band Director's Lessons About Life has 50 little parables. It's a bit like a Chicken Soup for the Soul book. Each parable is about 3 pages long. Each begins with a story that happened in school, and then there's a reflection section that draws a spiritual lesson out of the events of the story. That is, it explains the spiritual metaphor. The band director's Lessons About Life is easy to read, makes a great gift, and expresses many universal spiritual principles in an easy-to-understand way. If you want to go deeper in your spiritual growth, I've also published a study guide to accompany the Book of Parables. It turns the band director's Lessons About Life into a year-long course in spiritual development. You will spend a week on each of the 50 parables. There is a deeper teaching about the meaning of each parable, reflection and discussion questions, especially helpful if you would like to use the study guide in a group setting, and a different meditation for each lesson. The third book in the series is a little book titled The Band Director's Pocket Guide to Spiritual Growth. This little book explains a simple 3-step process to putting your spiritual growth into high gear. You can learn more about all of these 3 books and my other books at my website, www.cominghomespirit.com. Because, after all of us are on a spiritual journey back home to God. So that's cominghomespirit.com. You can also go directly to my Shopify page at cominghomespirit.myshopify.com, where you can purchase my books directly from me. I can deliver ebooks and audiobooks anywhere in the world, but at the moment I can only ship paperback books within the continental United States. So if you live in other countries, you will need to purchase my books through Amazon in your own country. If you're enjoying this podcast, I really think you'll enjoy my Band Director series of books as well. Now, back to the program.
The way that I usually communicate with people is I use their own vernacular. So I don't, throw spiritual principles at people that really are not ready to receive them. I listen intently. I wait and I listen to hear, what I ask questions usually. And if I do have something to say, I generally say, in my opinion, X, Y, and Z is really the best way to go about things, or something like that. I don't try and teach anyone. As a matter of fact, I did channel for a client one time who was very upset that, he tries to tell people and then they reject him and he feels really bad because they think he's weird. And what my guides told him basically was, don't place your expectations on the yoke of someone else. That's not your job. Your job is to be. Your job is to embody. And just by being, you will give the light that they need to see. You will give the example of a life worth living that they perhaps are not living at this moment. So it has nothing to do with imposing thoughts upon anyone else, but merely being and embodying the light and embodying, let's say, the Christ consciousness, embodying the peace that this world desperately needs. And that's really all that we're required to do. And on your point about, beginner lessons for beginner students versus, high school and beyond, I had a client the other day who was, in essence, a very high frequency soul. Like, I believe she was an angelic soul that's here on this planet. I said, there's no difference between me and you. But she's going through a lot as a human. She's going through her squeezing, her difficulty, times of difficulty. And I said, there's no difference between you and I. I've just learned how to navigate this planet. I've just learned how to do this. But you and I, there's no difference between us. Okay, we are all the same. We're just on different different layers or different on the sliding scale of figuring out what works and doesn't work on how to be happy and peaceful on this earth plane, navigating our minds, navigating our energies. That's really what we're here to learn. We're here to learn how uh to navigate planet Earth, basically, you
Yeah.
know?
This three-dimensional reality in which we live. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
This
What?
is a tough place.
Yeah.
It's a really rough and tumble place. But we are the strongest of this is what I've channeled for years. We are the strongest of the strong. We are the bravest of the brave. And as a matter of fact, I I have since left education, and I had developed my own intuitive energy healing style, but I've also become a certified clinical and transpersonal hypnotherapist. So
Okay.
that's what I'm doing now as a profession, kind of like a legit profession. I'm a hypnotherapist, which is very spiritually aligned, and it's such a satisfying career. Um, because it's hard. This is planet Earth is tough. Planet Earth, and we are the ones that are here to set up the ascension, to set up the new energy on the earth, and to be here for when so many millions of souls are going to be awakening. You see it all around. People are looking at things going, that's not what this is meant to do. Government's not supposed to be doing this.
Yeah.
You said
Yeah.
something, now you're doing something else. Or medicine. You want me to take X, Y, and Z, and I really don't want to do that. But you must do what we tell you to do. No, 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 no. So now we're becoming sovereign. Now we're and everybody on their own level. Maybe they won't be able to channel. Maybe they don't think that this is a matrix and that this is a Maya, that we're in a dream and that our real awake state is really in spirit. Maybe they won't get that far, but they're going to get far enough so that the energy and the frequency of the planet is going to shift, and all these oppressive systems that we have been operating under for eons and generations are going to crack and tumble. And that's what we're here
Yeah.
for.
Yeah. And we chose to come here at this
Absolutely.
time during this transition because we had something to contribute, and it's part of our mission to
Hmm.
do that.
Yes, that's it. That's what our mission is.
So, you went through this. You kind of lost so many things.
Yeah.
Your husband, your job, your faith in
Hmm.
God, your
Hmm.
income, and you lost a child.
Hmm.
All losing all kinds of things, and then kind of opening up your mind, your consciousness to a broader and a deeper understanding of spiritual reality. And then you went on to become you're a Reiki master.
Yes. So with my friend Melissa, the one who taught me, who was offering the Reiki class, I took all the courses she provided. She attuned me as a Reiki master, and then I taught with her for a couple of years as well. So I helped attune others. And so yes, I am a Reiki master teacher. But when I began to channel, and I started to be working with long distance clients more often than not, um, things started to shift in my own body. Like I started to notice my hands were moving very oddly. I started to feel twitching energy in my body. I started to feel contractions of density corresponding with what my clients were feeling. So I've pretty much become my own pendulum. I feel things very viscerally, and I'm an intuitive. So I'm not a clairvoyant. I'm an audient, and a claircognizance and a clairsentient. I feel it. I know things. And that's pretty much the how I assist my clients when they come to me for energy work. I use the pendulum, I measure people's energy, and then I feel the chakras. Then I bring it to me. And when I do this, I can tell what's going on. I get signs from my guides. I can tell if it's from a past life. I can tell if it's from an attachment, an energy attachment. Um, so that's like the spiritual work that I do. And so that coupled with I would say the ability to access the other realms with through my clients through hypnotherapy and regression. Um, it's really I'm just so satisfied. I'm just so happy to be doing this work now. I had to leave education.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they as God often works it out this way. I mean, they, kind of, kicked you out. And so
Oh, I was
you
totally kicked out.
yeah, you went off in a different direction. Yeah. I
Totally.
had to leave education too. I was pretty much pushed out, and so went off in a different direction. But I see the hand of God in all of that. Yeah. So if we could circle back to, you said earlier in your life, you had this sense that you were accompanied by some kind of a dark energy, a dark entity. As you became a channel and the Reiki master and all this kind of stuff, were you able to detect what that was and
Mm.
then get rid of it?
I had gone to someone to help me with this kind of like interference that I was having. But really, I think once you have a propensity for that, once you're on the radar of the lower fourth astral, which I had been since I was 14, and I did a seance we did the Ouija board with my cousin back in Malta when I told you. I didn't tell you that part, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So,
Because the Ouija boards are very dangerous for
yeah,
this sort of
I
thing.
didn't know that. I didn't know
Yeah.
that. I was
So
14.
is that how it started? And this
It's how
dark
it
entity
started, yeah.
came through that and attached to you at that point?
Mhm, yeah.
Oh,
So, when
interesting.
we're in a free will zone, right? We have all of us have free will. But you know, we don't know what we're doing. So once you make the decision that you want to communicate through intention or action, and this could even be you going, I heard this the other day from, I don't know if it was a client or somebody. Yeah, it was from a client that she just said, huh, I heard about that if you just go and ask, your ET family will come to you. And so she went outside and openly just asked, hey, whoever's out there, I want to see you. Well, she ended up getting a whole bunch of negative energy because once you set the intention that you desire something, it goes out into the world. And based on your frequency, you're gonna get you're gonna get in kind, right? So
And that's why some sort of spiritual and psychic protection uh,
yeah.
is is really important.
Mhm.
It was one of my previous guests had mentioned something about it called an angel. Oh, I just want to be surrounded by angels. She didn't realize that there were dark angels, that there were
Yeah,
negative angels,
exactly.
so they weren't all positive.
Right.
And suddenly she saw herself surrounded by all these dark figures. There was only one white figure. They're all dark. And she said, "Oh, like okay, just white angels, just the angels that are here to do the will of God, you know."
Correct.
And
There you
so
go.
that changed things, right? So you got to be careful what you call
Oh,
in. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, and that's very, very, very important. And when I teach people and whenever I do my work, I call it an invocation. Only those that dwell within the love and the light of the one infinite creator. That's when I bless my space. That's what I say. Only those that dwell within the love and the light of the one infinite creator are allowed to dwell in this home, in this place. Use this in this computer, in my phone. Like I bless all electronics, all crystalline energy, or all organite energy. I bless every element, So, yeah, we've got to do that. And it's unfortunate, but hey, this is duality,
Yeah. We lock our doors too, right? And
Huh?
like most people would not go in and steal stuff from our car or homes, but there's some who will. So we lock our doors.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the nature of where we are. And But having said all of that, and something that I've learned over the course of my journey, that whole cluster of my life breaking down was not the first one, or it was just the first one. I had another cycle where I was at my peak. I had the amazing home. I had a great job. Life is perfect. I'm channeling. I have people following me. I'm doing my spiritual work. And then that was all taken away. I sold my house, I left my job, I moved to Florida, and I got very, very sick. And for a year, I had to stop everything. I had to stop my YouTube. I had to stop working. And it was another ego death. So you hear about the ego deaths. Well, this was another ego death. This was almost a body death. And so everything that we cling on to, even our bodies, are temporary. We are not bodies, right? That is another thing from A Course in Miracles. I am not a body. I am as God created me. And
Right.
so I am spirit occupying this vessel, and I'm here for a mission. I've got work to do. But my illusions were so strong, even on the others, even though I was awake and aware, there were still more lessons for me to create for myself. And so I've come to understand that we create these challenges by our beliefs, by our thoughts, and it is a divinely orchestrated situation that is meant to illuminate what we need to heal within us first. So oftentimes, spirit will or you'll stub your toe and you're like, just stubbed my toe. Next, you're going to stub your toe and you're going to break it. If you don't learn that lesson, what are you doing? What's happening in your life? Why you keep stubbing your toe? You're not learning. Gosh, why does this keep happening to me? Gee, I just don't know. Well, then what's going to happen? Something else is going to happen, divinely created by your higher self and your current reality, to where you're going to have nothing but time to figure this crap out. You've got to figure out what your next block is and how to get through it. And so what I've come to understand is that the happy dream that A Course in Miracles talks about is not that everything is perfect, because we're never going to achieve perfection in this realm. It's not a perfect realm. What we are going to achieve is the tools to interpret this reality, to detach from it, and to emit love no matter what. And so that when we do get into a devastating situation, our bounce back, our reaction to it is going to be a holy one. It's going to be a peaceful one. We're not going to be losing our minds and blaming the world and blaming everybody else. We're going to look within and say, okay, now what?
Right.
Now I'm going to adjust accordingly. Now something within me must be reflecting something. Let me look within and thank this person who hurt my feelings, this person who broke my heart, this illness that I endured, which was teaching me so much more about who I was and who I was not. And
Right.
so we can't look at anything as an attack. There's no attack, right? In my defenselessness, my safety lies. And so we look within.
And everything we experience is a lesson that
Hmm.
we created,
Right.
and it will be followed by another lesson, not by peace, rest. I mean, there will be periods of peace and success and
Exactly.
whatnot in our life, of course,
Hmm.
but that's not an eternal state of being, either in this life or in any other life,
Hmm.
because we learn through challenges, through struggles.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's the nature of this reality. It's like I said, we have to figure out how to deal with this reality, how to deal with planet Earth and the way things work. And that's that's our biggest challenge. And it's a lifelong challenge. If we figure it out, we don't need to be here anymore. So we can
We
just go
go
back home
we go and have other lessons somewhere else because there
somewhere
are
else.
in my Father's house are many mansions, right?
Many.
Whatever Jesus really meant by that, it's a
Yeah.
big universe.
It's a big universe and it's a big planet, and there are millions, billions of souls here. And I also believe that's what he meant. There are many ways to achieve this peace, this inner peace. It can be through whatever way it might be. You and I seem to have found a similar path, so that's really cool.
In some ways similar, yeah. I'm not a channeler, but,
Well, I mean,
I'm
the Course in
a seeker.
Miracles, really.
A Course in Miracles, yes,
Yeah.
and other things. Oh, I wanted to ask you, your hypnosis and regression, it sounded like a different sort of a type of training than Dolores Cannon made in her QHHT program. So are
Mhm.
you also QHHT certified, or is that something different, or is it very
I am
similar? Can you maybe just explain that a bit?
I would love to. And thank you for asking that because there's a lot of confusion as to what really hypnosis and actually the therapeutic end of the hypnosis is. Can a QHHT session be therapeutic? Absolutely. But they are technically not hypnotherapists. That is a classification through education that you need certification for. Um, QHHT is a modality that was developed by Dolores Cannon and which deals with the quantum realm of the human mind. So I believe there are three parts to the human mind. There is the conscious mind, which is you and I talking today, very, very small bit of the human mind. There's the subconscious mind, which is the supercomputer that registers every detail of our living existence as the avatars that we are. Okay. So it remembers, I've gone in my own personal sessions back to my birth into the birth canal. My mother had a cesarean, and I went back to that moment of trying to go through the birth canal and not getting able, and felt very frustrated. I was very, I was like, "Why aren't you letting me out, mommy? Why are you resisting me?" And I was like, "That's the beginning of me fighting against my mom for my entire life." So Dolores has her own kind of patented or her own method of doing a past life regression. So that is going into past lives, and she has her own technique. I am trained in something called Beyond Quantum Healing, which is developed by one of her proteges. But that allows for doing sessions over Zoom. It's a more inclusive thing. But I also went to a school called the Institute of Interpersonal Hypnotherapy, where I learned inductions. I learned how to do parts therapy, smoking cessation, weight loss management, childhood regression, trauma resolvement, past life regression, life between life. And then also, I actually downloaded or had a modality given to me by my extraterrestrial aspects, and I call that a starseed special. And where I guide people to meet their extraterrestrial aspects and families. So, what I do is vastly different than the QHHT, but it accomplishes much the same. I
Awesome.
don't have to see spiritual people or even take them to past lives. We can go into this life and heal traumas that they have here.
Right. Well, that's great. And anyone who would like to contact you and maybe interested in looking into some of these services that you're able to offer, can you
Yeah,
tell us how to contact you?
absolutely. So my website is AMM for Anne Marie Morales hypnotherapy.com. AMMhypnotherapy.com. I do have my YouTube channel up and running again. I've started to post there again. And you can just go
With
there and
with
see
the
what I
with the
offer.
same name, I think. Is that right?
Yes, Anne Marie Morales Hypnotherapy.
Super. We'll put those links in the show notes as well. But
Yeah, thank you.
sometimes people are just listening and only hear it verbally. So ammhypnotherapy.com.
.com. Yep, and you'll find me there. I did realize I never talked about the third part of the mind.
Yeah,
That
the super.
I stuck at the subconscious, which is about this. Then there is the super conscious realm.
Right,
So the
right.
conscious, the sub, and the super. I believe the super conscious realm, that is where we are all connected. That is the web of life here on this planet. This is our connection to God. This is our connection to higher realms and dimensions and realities. That's where we voyage when we're in the focused state of a hypnotic trance.
Yes, and those three levels began over a century ago, right? With the founders of psychology and psychiatry, Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung.
And before that was Anton Mesmer. So there was
Yes.
mesmerism in the 1700s, where because he was calling it animal magnetism, and he would go around the societies in Paris and he would heal people through energy. And so he would use like this vat, if I'm not mistaken, some sort of vat of water, and people would put their hands on it, and he would they would experience all these sensations, and they would be put in trance, if I'm not mistaken. And he was getting a lot of attention. Actually, even Benjamin Franklin went over as a delegation to study what Anton Mesmer was accomplishing. And they defamed it as, they just said, no, it's bunk. It's ridiculous. But
Yeah.
from his work, then yes, other Freud, and they would pick up on that as well.
And from that essentially hypnosis work of Anton Mesmer, we have the term mesmerized.
Exactly. And
Right? It comes
people,
from him.
even in ancient Egypt, there were sleep temples. They were called sleep temples, and people would go into trance and have these mystical experiences. So, I mean, it's the human mind, really, and human consciousness. And so it's been ours since we've been, so people at various forms have been accessing it in various ways.
Yeah. Well, Anne Marie, it's been an absolute delight to have you on the show and to hear more about your story and the incredible transformation in your life and the beautiful work that you're doing now to help people and to bring spirit into materiality in this three-dimensional world that we live in, and to further the whole ascension process. God bless you in your work, Anne Marie.
Thank you. I appreciate that so very much. It's been impressed upon my heart to write a book about my journey with Jesus. I've got 2 books that I have within me that I just need to get out. One is about some ascension teachings, I'm calling it, and the other one is my journey from Catholicism to spirituality, my journey with Jesus. And how that is, because there's a lot of Catholics that are opening up to spirituality, and it's a big conflict because there's a lot of guilt surrounding that. So I have to get my books written.
Yeah, I know. It's no small thing to write a book.
No,
I know.
no.
I've written and published 5 so far and more on the
Wow,
go.
great. Okay.
So yeah, it is a lot of work, but they're important things. And if that's been put on your heart to do, then
Yeah.
Anne Marie, get to it, girl.
Seriously. Yep, I get it. Thank you.
All right. God bless you, and have a wonderful rest of your life. Our paths may cross again. Who knows?
Thank you so much. Likewise.